In 1996, the United States Air Force published a document, not classified, not leaked, officially published, submitted to Air Force leadership, available on the Defense Technical Information Center database right now. The title, Weather as a Force Multiplier, Owning the Weather in 2025. The document describes, in specific technical detail, how U.S. aerospace forces could use emerging weather modification technologies as weapons of war, triggering fog, inducing drought, disrupting enemy communications through atmospheric manipulation, causing precipitation over specific geographic targets. It is a real document, written by Air Force officers, submitted through official channels. That same year, in the forests of Gakona, Alaska, the U.S. Air Force and Navy were operating a facility called HAARP, the High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. The official description, a research station studying the ionosphere to improve military communications. The technology was built on U.S. Patent 4,686,605, filed in 1987 by physicist Bernard Eastlund, describes something considerably more significant. A method for altering the atmosphere over large geographic regions, disrupting communications across entire countries, modifying weather patterns, disabling incoming missiles by disturbing the ionosphere through which they travel. The patent is real. The Air Force document is real. The facility operated under classified military control for over 2 decades. And in 2015, the military handed it to a university and walked away. Here is what happened in between. Bernard Eastlund was a physicist who worked with ARCO, the Atlantic Richfield Company, one of the largest oil companies in America. In the mid-1980s, ARCO had a problem. They had enormous reserves of natural gas on Alaska's North Slope, but no cost-effective way to transport it. Pipelines were expensive. Liquefaction was expensive. Eastlund proposed something different: convert the gas to electricity on site and use that electricity to power a massive antenna array. What the antenna array would do is where the story starts. U.S. Patent 4,686,605 was filed in 1985 and granted in August 1987. Its title, Method and Apparatus for Altering a Region in the Earth's Atmosphere, Ionosphere, and/or Magnetosphere. Read the patent, not the summary, the actual patent. It describes using a ground-based antenna to transmit high-frequency radio energy into the ionosphere, the layer of the atmosphere between 60 and 1,000 kilometers above the Earth's surface, at sufficient power to heat specific regions. This heating creates what Eastlund called a mirror, a reflective plasma layer that could redirect radio signals, disrupt communications, or be used to push the jet stream. Specific capabilities described in the patent: disrupting enemy communications across entire geographic regions by creating an ionospheric disturbance that makes radio transmission impossible, redirecting the jet stream, the high-altitude wind current that drives weather systems across continents, creating a shield against ballistic missiles by heating the atmosphere through which they travel. Eastlund was not a fringe inventor. He had a PhD in physics from Columbia. He had worked on fusion research at the Atomic Energy Commission. The patent was granted by the United States Patent Office, which means it was reviewed and found to be scientifically credible. ARCO sold the patent to a defense contractor called APTI in 1994. APTI was subsequently acquired by Raytheon, one of the largest defense contractors in the world. HAARP was built shortly after. The High-Frequency Active Auroral Research Program, Gakona, Alaska. Construction began in 1993. The visible installation: 180 antenna towers spread across 33 acres of Alaskan forest, each tower 72 feet tall. The array generates a focused beam of high-frequency radio energy directed into the ionosphere. Official power output, 3.6 megawatts. Official purpose: studying ionospheric behavior to improve military communications and develop over-the-horizon radar. Funding: provided jointly by DARPA, the Air Force Research Laboratory, and the Office of Naval Research. The facility ran classified research programs from 1993 to 2014. 21 years of classified military research at an ionospheric heating installation built on technology originally patented as a weather and communications warfare tool. The published research from this period covers radio propagation, artificial aurora generation, and ELF wave production. It is the research they decided you could see. What wasn't published is the question. Here is what we know about what ionospheric heaters can do, from unclassified research across multiple facilities worldwide. HAARP is not unique. Russia operates the Sura Ionospheric Heating Facility near Nizhny Novgorod, comparable power, similar antenna design. Norway operates EISCAT. There are facilities in Peru, in Germany, in China. The global network of ionospheric heaters, all nominally civilian research tools, represents a significant concentration of a technology that was originally patented as a weapon system. That is not a conspiracy theory. That is the documented history of how this technology was developed and deployed. A patent describing weather modification, a classified military facility, and an Air Force document explicitly planning to own the weather by 2025. Subscribe. Tech They Buried goes this deep every single week. Let's talk about weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. Published in 1996. Written by a team of Air Force officers as a research paper submitted to the Chief of Staff. Declassified and made publicly available in 1998. You can download the PDF from the Defense Technical Information Center right now. The document is explicit. It does not treat weather modification as science fiction. It treats it as an emerging capability to be weaponized within a 30-year timeframe. Specific capabilities the document describes developing by 2025. Precipitation enhancement, inducing rain or snow over specific geographic targets. Denial of precipitation, inducing drought over enemy territory. Fog generation and removal, creating or clearing fog to advantage or disadvantage ground operations. Space weather manipulation, triggering geomagnetic disturbances that disrupt satellite and communication systems. The document specifically references ionospheric modification as a core mechanism for several of these capabilities. Published in 1996, the same year HAARP was becoming operational. The Air Force's official position has always been that HAARP was a pure research facility, that the ionospheric heating it performed was purely for scientific understanding. Their own published document from the same period describes ionospheric heating as a weapons development pathway. Both of these things are simultaneously presented as true. They cannot both be true. Here is the technical detail that nobody talks about. Eastlund's original patent describes needing enormous power levels to achieve the atmospheric modification effects he proposed. The specific calculations in the patent describe power requirements in the gigawatt range, billions of watts, to meaningfully redirect the jet stream or create the atmospheric mirrors he envisioned. HAARP's official power output is 3.6 megawatts, 3.6 million watts. That is orders of magnitude below what Eastlund's own patent describes as necessary for the most significant atmospheric effects. There are two interpretations of this gap. The first, HAARP was never capable of the effects described in the Eastlund patent. It was genuinely a research facility operating at research power levels. The patent described theoretical possibilities that the actual facility never came close to achieving. The second, the 3.6 megawatt figure, is the publicly stated output of the publicly acknowledged facility. And the question of what classified ionospheric research programs, potentially at other locations, potentially at higher power, may have tested during the 21-year classified period, is precisely what has never been answered. Russia's Auroral facility operates at comparable power to HAARP. China has built its own ionospheric heater in Sanya, the SYISR, which became operational in 2016, the year after the U.S. military handed HAARP to a university. The timing of the U.S. military's exit from the ionospheric heating business coincides precisely with China's entry into it. January 12, 2010. Haiti. A magnitude 7.0 earthquake kills between 100,000 and 316,000 people. The death toll has never been precisely established and destroys the capital city of Port-au-Prince. Within days, Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez made a public accusation. The United States, he claimed, had triggered the earthquake using a tectonic weapon connected to HAARP. He was citing a report from the Russian Northern Fleet that had been circulating in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. The response from Western media was immediate and uniform: ridicule. Chavez was dismissed as a conspiracy theorist, a demagogue, an anti-American propagandist exploiting a tragedy. Here is what received significantly less coverage. The specific mechanism Chavez referenced, ionospheric heating, creating coupled electromagnetic effects that interact with fault-line stress, had been explored in peer-reviewed academic literature. A 2008 paper published in the Natural Hazards and Earth System Sciences journal documented correlations between ionospheric disturbances and seismic events in the hours before major earthquakes. The mechanism is not proven. The causation has not been established, but the academic literature acknowledges the correlation and acknowledges that the physics of ionosphere-lithosphere coupling is not fully understood. The Haiti claim was almost certainly wrong, but the framework Chavez was drawing on was not invented. It existed in the scientific literature, and the specific facility he was accusing had been conducting classified research on ionospheric effects for 17 years. Dismissing the claim without engaging the underlying science is not debunking. It is deflection. August 11, 2015. The U.S. Air Force formally transfers HAARP to the University of Alaska Fairbanks. The official reason: the military's research interests had been satisfied. The facility was no longer needed for defense purposes. Rather than demolish it, they would hand it to civilian researchers. The facility, 33 acres of antenna arrays, the world's most powerful ionospheric heater, built at a cost of approximately $290 million, was transferred for essentially nothing. The timing is worth examining. 2014–2015 was the period when UAP disclosure pressure was building inside the military establishment, when the programs that would eventually produce the Grush testimony were being restructured, when multiple classified research programs were being quietly reorganized. It is also the period when China began construction of its own ionospheric heater, and it is the period when the Air Force, asked by Congress about HAARP's future, said they intended to demolish it, then reversed course and handed it to UAF instead. UAF now conducts open research campaigns at the facility. Researchers can apply for time. Results are published. The facility is, by all appearances, exactly what the military always said it was: a research tool. But the 21-year classified period, 1993 to 2014, remains exactly that. The research conducted during that period under DARPA, Air Force, and Navy funding has not been comprehensively declassified. What they were actually testing in those 2 decades in the Alaskan forest is not public information. A patent filed in 1987 describing atmospheric modification as a weapons system. A facility built in Alaska by the U.S. military, classified, operated for 21 years, and handed to a university. An Air Force document explicitly describing weather ownership as a military objective. A global network of comparable facilities in Russia, China, Norway, all nominally civilian research tools built on weapons technology. And 21 years of classified research that has never been made public. The mainstream position: HAARP is a research facility. The conspiracy theories are baseless. The patent was theoretical. The Air Force document was speculative fiction. Nothing to see here. The documented position: the patent was real. The military funding was real. The classified period was real. The Air Force document was real. And the gap between what was patented, what was funded, and what was publicly disclosed is real. Whether HAARP caused any specific event is unproven. Whether it was developed and tested as something considerably more significant than a radio research station, the paper trail says yes. They built it in the middle of the Alaskan forest. They classified it for 2 decades. Then they gave it away. Make of that what you will. Drop a comment: research tool or weapons program. Because the patent and the Air Force's own document suggest the answer was always both.